Hello everyone. Good to have you here in our platform API updates webinar for November 2025. Um, I'm here with Daniel Hai. He's the senior product manager for the API in Monday.com. And yeah, let's start. I will just say if you have any questions during the webinar, there's a Q&A button. So just drop your questions there. And when we finish the webinar, we will go over the questions and Daniel will answer everything. Okay, so enjoy and good luck.
Amazing. Thank you, Omer. Yeah, super happy to be here. It's amazing to see how many people have signed up, over 100 developers. And we have developers from everywhere, our marketplace developers, from customers, even internal Monday developers. For those who don't know, the platform API also powers internal Monday products. So this is the first time we're doing this. So definitely fill out the feedback form at the end. Let me know if this was something that was useful for you, so we know if we should do it again in the future. And yes, for those who don't know, I'm Daniel Hai. I'm a API, MCP, and AI product manager at Monday. If you have any questions, you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very responsive. And yeah, I have the honor of presenting all this amazing work that was done by everyone at Monday. But just so you know, the API is totally a company effort, and all the different teams are building and improving it all the time. Okay, so just in one word, the platform API is your way to connect with the Monday platform programmatically, allowing you to do almost any action that's possible through the user interface through the API. And that is a very basic thing. I hope that everyone in this meeting knew that. Why? Because our format is going to be as such. I'm going to show you a lot of information. It's going to be quite fast. It's going to be pretty technical. I will upload the recording after. Of course, send questions in the Q&A. I'll try and get to all the questions and fill in the feedback form using the QR. So, the target audience I'm aiming for are developers and more technical business people. So it wouldn't be super technical, but we are going to be talking about all the new possibilities of what you can now do with the API. So it should definitely also open your mind to the new kinds of things you can now build with Monday. And I'm going to preview some of the capabilities that are now in preview. I'm going to talk about them. We're going to talk mostly about the new capabilities we just released in 2024-10, which is a huge version. And I'm also going to bring up some capabilities you might have missed that we have previously released. Finally, we'll have the Q&A. Before we get started, I'll just talk. We've put a ton of effort into putting a developer agent in the API playground, which is cutting edge. We've been talking about it in different kinds of AI conferences. Go and try it out. Ask it your questions. It knows everything that's happening in the playground and is able to debug your errors and build queries for you. Should completely accelerate your development. Now, I'm going to cover mostly the 3 versions that are currently the main ones. So 2026-01 is our upcoming release candidate. We have 2025-10, which was just released as a stable version, and 2025-07, which now went into maintenance, which basically means we do not make any changes in it, and it should be there for at least a year and a half. Now, why are we doing this thing now? So this is a pretty cool graph here. You can see Monday went into an AI craze in this queue. And, we recognize Monday is a company that loves UI and we're very customer centric. And that's sort of the superpower of Monday. But we also realize that if we want to be an AI friendly platform, we have got to make sure that everything that's possible to do in the user interface is also possible programmatically. So we've basically gathered everyone and said, let's build out more APIs and open up the platform even more. And you can see here, if we look at the different versions that we're releasing every queue, this version was just huge with a ton of new things. And that's why we thought this is a great time to do this and show you all of these new stuff we built. So let's get started with 2026-01. The reason I wanted to start with something that is not out yet is because this version contains already the aggregation API, which to me is one of the most important capabilities we have released in the last few years. It's a complete game changer for what you can build on top of Monday. Now, the aggregation API allows you to query board statistics, which basically gives you infinite scale for generating any statistics you need. So, what does that mean? If you're building things like you're calculating numbers, you want to have a timeline graph, a bar chart by person, anything like that, those are statistics. And until today, you would have had to query all of the board items up to the 100,000 items to basically do this aggregation in your app or client side. This is now all possible to do on the Monday server. So just to give you a little bit of open your mind to what this enables, you can look here. This is Monday Vibe. And you can see here this already on the left side, you have the result of this metric. And you can see on the right side, to build the same pie chart, the amount of items that have to load into the client to try and calculate the pie chart. This pie chart is going to take a few minutes to load. And if we were to calculate the complexity, that would have been a ton of complexity. So you can see this is almost instant. So for Monday internally, for Monday Vibe, this was a complete game changer, enabling us to build much more lean, fast dashboard experiences. And then for the Monday MCP, which is something I'm responsible for, you can now ask questions about the board. For example, can you give me a breakdown by tasks? And you can see it's able to provide this breakdown very, very quickly. Here, I'll pause here. So it's visible here. So you have how many critical tasks, how many high tasks, how many medium tasks. This would not be possible to do in AI if you were to actually return all the items, right? The context window doesn't allow it. But using this one endpoint, we just return the result. And this is also a very, very, very powerful capability. Right, let's go back into full screen. Cool. So aggregation API, definitely go check it out. It's in the preview version. Anytime you think you need to do aggregation calculations across multiple boards, it's extremely powerful. Give us your feedback. It's still in preview. We can still make improvements. So definitely waiting to hear from you. And we're very excited about the possibilities this will open. Now, next, let's talk about 2025-10. This is the version that just went into stable. This is the one where I showed we have all these new things. I'm just going to go through all these things by category and sort of break down everything that was added. So let's start with docs. So now you can do a lot more things to manage your docs. You can rename, duplicate, and delete docs. For those who don't know, docs is a feature like a board. You can create a document with rich formatting. You can put in board blocks or different types of blocks to create rich docs experiences. Now, in order to enable AI and also to allow to do much, much faster migrations and import and export, we've actually added full support for Markdown and HTML. So now you can import, you can take a Markdown format file and basically upload it to Monday and ask it to create the doc. And it's going to do all of the formatting and build the doc. Until today, you would have had to build it block by block by block. So this is a very, very large improvement. This also enabled us, to allow the AI agent to create docs very quickly and efficiently, because AI understands Markdown really well. And you can also export the doc as a Markdown, again, much more efficient than getting the JSON with all of the blocks. This is a very, very convenient way to work now with docs. We also added a new capability to bulk create doc blocks. So if you need a little bit more control than what Markdown enables, so for example, adding unique blocks that reference boards or dashboards, you can now do this in bulk. And finally, we exposed a field for last update. So if your app needs to understand when something was last changed in the doc, it's now possible via the API. Okay, so what's new in Forms? So we have released full support for Forms. You can create, update, delete work forms via the API, and that includes all the things in the forms, such as questions and tags and settings. And you can also retrieve all this information via the API, so you can read the form, like all of the questions, And this is, for example, enabled us to add this to the Monday MCP. So now the agent is able to build forms dynamically. Just you basically tell it what you want. It builds out the questions and build the forms. You can build all kinds of apps around this. And you can also do things like activate and deactivate forms and control the settings using the API. Okay, boards. So this one I'm very excited about. You can finally reorder items on the board using the API. So this was a big limitation that many people asked to open. So it's finally there. In addition, we opened up board permissions. So now you can set a lot more granular permissions on the board using the API, not just whether the board is closed or open, but I think it's item level and column level permissions. In addition to that, we opened the custom item terminology. So if you want the item in column to be, if you have things like bugs and you want to call it bugs, now you can do so using the API. And a super exciting new feature, required fields and validations. So for example, if you need to, for example, set a rule that when a new item is created, certain columns must be filled in order for that item to be created. For example, here, I selected, you can see in the image, department and full name must be filled for the item to be created. I did this with the API. And now when people go in and try to create a new item, they see the form and they're asked to fill in these fields. So this is very, very exciting. This is a feature that's also going to grow a lot more in complexity over time, allowing you to get more granular about like the status value requirements and stuff like this. But this is the first iteration. And as you can see, it's already available in the API. We really focused here to make this API first. Great. Let's talk about columns, the long awaited no, before we go to that, you can create and update status columns now with a dedicated endpoint. So it makes it a lot easier if you don't want to use a generic settings payload. We now have a dedicated column for dedicated mutation for status, and you can pass in all the status labels that you want. In addition to that, so this one I'm very excited about, you can now create connect board columns and mirror columns using the API. So not only can you create the connect board columns, you can also connect the actual boards to the connect board column. You can also configure whether it's bi-directional or not. And this is something that a lot of people have been waiting for. So it's great to see that it was added. In addition to that, some of the very exciting things which might be underrated that we have added is the structured metadata. So you can now modify the properties of the column. So you can get very specific about the settings that you want to change for each column type. And you can configure it. So for example, the way you would do this, we have a new endpoint to read all the possible configurations on a column using the API. And you can also read this from your existing columns. And all this comes together. So a use case to understand is now, for example, from the MCP, the AI agent wants to create a new type of column. It can read, hey, what can I configure on this column? What are the possible settings? It understands how to build a setting string, pass it in, and create the column with all the configurations. So this can all be done programmatically now. Definitely worth going and checking out. Okay, let's see how we're on time. We're pretty good. Okay, so views. Views have also been opened up in the API. So we had a very basic just ability to see the view ID. Now you can have a lot more control. You can create, update, and delete views using the API, as well have the ability to read all of the settings of the views. So for example, for a board view, you will be able to see the filters and the sorting that is configured on the board view. For a form, you would be able to see the questions and the settings on the form. And this will be extensible. So we're adding more and more capabilities for each view type. And I think it's also supported if you're building custom views from custom apps, they will be able to also add configurations and settings, which you'll be able to read using the API. Okay, another thing we've done a lot of expansion on is in workspace and layouts. We now give you a lot more control in how you organize your workspace. So now you can move things. So for example, you can move the workspace between different Monday products. So if you have Monday work management and Monday CRM and service, you can now move entire workspaces using the API. You can also move folders, not just between, you can move them between products, workspaces, or the position inside of the workspace. And the same thing goes for boards. This is, again, very useful to us in our AI agent. If it's building out a new workspace and it wants to organize the things, it can now move the folders, create folders, move boards inside on its own. And we've also opened up the section which is above the workspace, which is the favorites. So now you can create, update, and delete the favorites. So if you want to build apps around that or allow users to easily add things to their favorites, that is a good thing to think about. We're actually at Monday probably going to be utilizing the favorites more and more in our AI agent, so to make it much more aware of what users put in their favorites. So when they reference things inside Monday, that is probably the first thing we would look. So for example, if they're talking about their epics board or their tasks board, we would look, is it in the favorites? It's a pretty good way of understanding what's important to the user. So we also, this feature would become more and more useful to us over time. Oh, it's funny to do these kind of sessions where I don't get to see your feedback, but I hope everything here was valuable so far. Okay, so projects and portfolio, very, very exciting. One of the biggest Monday features, insane adoption, especially more in an enterprise tier. We have also opened a lot of new capabilities around this feature. You can now convert any type of board into a project board. You can also now create your portfolio boards. You can then take these project boards and using the API, connect them to the portfolio. And for those who don't know, as a part of projects, Monday is now supporting multi-level sub-items, which has been years in the making. So you can see here in the image, you can now have multiple levels of sub-items. And if you look carefully, you will see that the status and number column are actually roll-up columns. So they take the lowest child nodes and those get aggregated up into the different levels of the item tree. And this is, of course, a very, very large change to how the API works. So you are now able to understand what kind of board it is. So is it like a multi-level board? Is it a regular board? And highly recommend to look at the new API for how do we show status and a number of values. So this will be backward compatible. This is not a breaking change. But you will have to recognize that this is now a board that supports multi-level sub-items, and to read the aggregate values, you would have to select a different field. So just so you know, it's something that's coming up. If you're adopting this feature, then you would have to make some changes in the API to fully support it. Great. Dashboards and widgets. So another feature that was requested for a really long time. You can now create, update, and delete dashboards using the API. This, of course, also includes creating and deleting the widgets. There is a special endpoint for reading the widget schema to understand, hey, what kind of widgets can I build? What kind of settings do I put on these widgets? And you can also then place these dashboards wherever you want inside your workspace or folders. And again, I'm always referencing back to AI because this is a lot of the way that we are checking these things now and actually getting adoption. So if you try the Monday MCP and you ask it, hey, can you design me a dashboard for this board? It's able to now programmatically go look at the board, understand what would make a great dashboard for that board, and actually build it out, add the widgets, configure them. So, this is part of our open platform. You can build the same thing. So this is very cool. Opens up many, many, many new types of possibilities. Okay. Next, let's talk about updates and communication. So updates and communication is very, very important to many customers, especially in the areas of we see enterprise governance, and one of the main use cases is just bulk export to get all the items out, again, for governance reasons. So we now made it easier to get just the board level updates. So if you don't know, in Monday, you have item level updates, but you can also have updates on the board. You can now filter to get just these board level updates. You can now also have a lot more granularity in filtering for replies. So you can get the board ID created at and paginate those results. So if you need to like just get the deltas now, oh, can you just give me the replies that were changed in the last 3 days? Now it's possible, which makes, again, bulk export of changed updates or created updates much easier. That's it. We also have more capabilities to control the notification. So you can use the API to not make the board muted, so it doesn't notify users. And you can also get a user's notification settings to understand how they have configured, whether they want to get notifications in an email and Slack, or they don't want to get those. You can now retrieve that via the API. Amazing. So that was our updates regarding 2025-10. There is actually a lot more things that we've also added that I don't think were added in this presentation. So I would highly recommend you go into our release notes on the documentation and look at the other changes. So let me just now take a second to go through some of the really big things we've done that you might not even know about. So recently, so not in this version, the version before, we released support for formula column. So you can now read formulas using the API. It won't return in the value, it returns in the display value field. You have to specifically ask for it. It will charge you more complexity on the read operation if you read formulas, because those are calculated, but you can get it now using the API. In addition to that, we have done a ton of work around improving our complexity calculation mechanism. And it is truly complex, but you will now, in many, many cases, if you upgrade to the latest API version, pay a lot less complexity than you've paid in the past. Let me give an example. If you were to read the board items in the past, it wouldn't matter how many board items you actually return in the query, you would have paid the same amount of complexity for that call. This is now changed. So if, for example, if you put filters and you actually only return 1 or 2 items, you would pay less complexity, much less complexity than you would have before. The inverse is also true. We see this is extremely rare, but if you are returning all the items 500, you might even have to pay a little bit more. But from what we've seen for 96 to 96% of cases, it's a lot less. So this is a very big improvement. And of course, this should ring a bell in everyone's head. If you've been asking, can we have more complexity? This is, basically you're getting more complexity by lowering the cost. Again, you will have to upgrade to the latest API version to get this. In addition to that, if you're an admin, you can now read the audit log using the platform API. So this was always possible in the past using a separate API. There was a REST API for the audit log, but now you can do this using the platform API. And finally, we've done a lot of stability and performance improvements. The team has been working really hard to make the API as stable and reliable as possible, which also leads me to the next slide. And trust me, nobody knows as much as me how annoying it is to have to upgrade API versions. We completely understand the burden that it puts on our ecosystem and our developers, but this is also what allows us to release all of these new things. And it's what allows us to actually significantly improve the stability. So about a couple months ago, 2-3 months ago, we announced that we will be deprecating 2 versions. So I'll use this opportunity again to share that. Version 2024.10 and 2025.01, which are about 1-year-old versions, will be deprecated on February 15th. They contain relatively minor breaking changes. So this is not like the major upgrade we had about 2 years ago. I believe that for 99% of customers, it will go completely seamless. You can just upgrade to a later version and everything should work fine. You can find all of these changes on the release notes. So do upgrade the version before this date just to make sure everything is smoothly migrated. If you're using those versions. If you don't, you will automatically be bumped. If you continue to reference these versions, it will be automatically bumped to 2025.04, which would be the lowest still public version. And that's it. Yeah. Amazing.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for the webinar. It was great.
Yeah.
Now I think I know much better. I hope you guys too. We will send the recording in YouTube in a few days. And please fill the survey if you still didn't fill it. And thank you very much for joining us today. And thanks again, Daniel, for making this happen. See you soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.